Hi, Paul here. Today we're going to create a piece of artwork that's based around an art movement that was around between World War One and World War Two, and persisted onwards and is still around today and is still quite popular, and it's known as Art Deco. Now, Art Deco was characterised by nice sleek lines and simplicity. Um, could get quite complex, but at the end of the day it still used simple lines. Art Deco as a movement actually influenced everything around that time. Everything from public transport to aerospace, automotive, fashion, architecture, um, electronics, and products that were sold. Even though the electronics weren't really electronic, they used valves, but you get the idea. So, in saying that, anytime you go to design something that has a specific look about it, you should do your research. Most designers spend a lot of time researching before they actually sit down on the computer and start producing finished artwork. So it's okay to suffer for your art, but your art should never suffer from lack of research, and it will impact on the finished design. So let's get started. So I'm going to create a new document, File, New. I'm going to use A4. You can find that in International Paper in the presets. 300 pixels per inch, because that's the resolution I want to use for printing. Printing is 300. If I want to produce images for the web, it's 72 pixels per inch. So that looks great. Color profile, sRGB. The color profile will translate and look at the differences between the color on the screen as to what's going to come out of the printer and make adjustments accordingly, or the printer will make the adjustments accordingly. So I'll call this Art Deco 1. So I'm going to do 3 Art Deco tutorials. I'll click OK, and a new document will pop up. I'll now hit F on the keyboard to maximize my screen space, and Control plus to make my image larger. Now what I want to do here is I want to divide my image up evenly. So if you don't have your rulers up, the shortcut for that is Control R, okay, or Command R if you're on a Apple Mac. And I'm going to drag a guide down with my Move tool. Just click and drag it down till it snaps to the center. Oh, there you go, there it is there. And one from the side till it snaps to the center as well. There we go there. And that's what I want. Okay, so I want to leave the background white, and I'm going to create a new layer. If you don't have your layers palette up, you can hit F7 on your keyboard, or you can find it in Window Layers. And to create a new layer, what I'm simply going to do is click the new layer icon, which is down here. And then I'll use the rectangular marquee tool, and I'll click and drag a box out that takes up this top left quadrant here, and I'm going to fill it with black. Edit, fill. I'm going to use black, okay, and that's what I want. And I'll deselect it. And what I'll do with that is I will duplicate that layer 4 times. So a quick way to do that is to simply, while using the Move tool, I can use the Alt key, and I can drag one over there, one over here, and one over here. And I'll switch all these top layers off by clicking on the visibility icons, just leaving the bottom layer active. So I want to change its shape. So what do? So I'll hit Control T, which will bring up a bounding box, and then I'll use the Alt key. Oops, sorry, the Command key, and I'll place my cursor over the corner here, and I'll drag that in. And that'll do fine. Once I'm happy with what I've got, I'll hit Enter to initiate the change, and then I'll go to my next layer. So I'll turn it on. I'll hit Command T, whoops, escape, wrong layer, making sure I'm on the correct layer, of course. Control T, I'll hold Shift and I'll hold my cursor outside the box, and I'll rotate. and then I'll drag it down to where I want it, and I'll hold Alt and the Command key, sorry, and I'll drag it up. Same with the bottom one here. I'll drag that up. That's what I want. I'll hit enter to initiate the change. Once again, moving to the next layer in turn, which I will drag over. Command T, holding down the Command key, and I'll drag that out. I'll also drag this one in. I'll also drag this one down. No, I won't. I will drag it up, sorry. And this one in. Once I'm happy, I'll hit enter, and then I'll move to my last layer here. I'll spin it around. Whoops, wrong layer. Making sure I'm on the top layer. Command T. I'll spin it around, dragging it into position. Use the Command key again to drag down this corner here. And also this corner here. I'll drag this one up a bit. There we go, that's what I want. I'll hit enter. And last but not least, I'll create a new layer on top. By clicking the new layer icon, I'll use my rectangular marquee selection tool and I'll click and drag out a box, which I'll fill with black. Edit, fill, black, and deselect with Command D. Now that layer there I'm also going to alter, so I'll use my move tool to make sure that's active. Hit Command T, and I'll hold my Command key down again and I'll drag these corners in. That'll do. Enter. Okay, there's our background abstract design for our Art Deco piece. Now, what I want to do here, because I've got a few layers here and I'm happy with what I've got, what I can do is I can sandwich these layers together. So I'm on the top layer. If I hold the Shift key down and select the last black object there, it'll select all the layers in between, and I can squash them by simply hitting Command or Control E. They'll become one layer. And I'll rename it by double clicking in the layer itself. On the word layer 2, I'll double click and I'll call it Abstract Black, and hit enter. Okay, with that done, what I need to do is download a font and install it, which I've already done. The font I'm going to use is actually called Lot. It's from a website called Font Fabric. I'll just go back. There's a lot of nice free fonts in here that you can use. One of the other tutorials I'm going to use the Metro font, as it looks, or Metropolis font, as it looks fantastic. And Lot is found down here. So you simply click on the image there, it'll take you to an image of what the font looks like, and then you download it and install it. Okay, so back to Photoshop. Next thing I want to do is create some type on here. So I'm going to use the type tool. I want to use white as a colour, so I'll just swap those over by clicking on this little icon here. The foreground colour is now white, and I will click on the screen. Now what you'll have on yours, you'll probably have something that looks like 12 point, which is too small, but we'll get to that in a second. I'm going to choose my font, so in this case is Lot. There it is there, and I'll just type in or select 72, and I'll type a capital T. It should have come up. Okay, capital T, and I'll drag it back here with my move tool. Now what you're going to see is that's too small for what we want, so a quick way to select your type and change it is to simply, in the layers palette, the letter T itself, you can see there the little thumbnail of it. If I double click on that thumbnail, it will select it for me. If I want to bring up the controls for type, I'll hit Command T. It'll bring up this palette here, and I can change my font size. In this case I'm going to use 170, because I know that'll work. I'll use my move tool and I'll drag it to where I want it, which is somewhere around there. Okay, next thing to do is I'm going to actually create the word type. So I want to duplicate this 4 times. So once again I'll just use the Alt key, click, drag, and I'll hold Shift to keep it constrained. It's on that line. Release. Do it again. Alt, drag, hit Shift. And one more time. Hold the Alt key down, holding Shift to keep it in line. Release. Okay, so the letter T here. Let's go to this layer here, the second piece of type. I'll double click on that. I'll change that to Y. This piece of type here, double click on there, change it to P. And lastly, capital E. Switch it off. Okay, now currently those pieces of type, if I go back and double click on it, I can change it to whatever size I want. So what I want to do now is I want to actually turn these letters into change it from a parametric object into an image. So I'll select them, right click, click on rasterize type, and they all become images now. And I'll go to my first letter here. Now what I want to do is I want to put a selection around it. So instead of tracing around it with one of these selection tools, what I can do is I can just simply hold my Command key down and click in the thumbnail for the letter T, and it will put a selection around it. And I want to use white. I also want to use another colour, which is going to be a greeny cyan. Which is sort of the colour of bronze or copper when it gets corrosion on it. So once I'm happy with the colour I've got, I'll click OK, and then I'll use my gradient tool, but set to angle gradient. So I'm not going to use linear, I'm going to use angle gradient. And I'm going to click in the centre of the T here and draw a line up to the edge of the letter T and release. Now what's happened here is I want the green on this side of the type, so I'll just swap these around and I'll do it again. Great, perfect. So once I've done that one, I can move over to the letter Y, hold the Command key down, click in the thumbnail, it will select it for me, and then I can do the same for this one here. In the wrong spot, so I'll undo it with Command Z, and I'll clear the guides view, clear guides, the centre there. Click and drag up. Go to the letter P, select that one. Go to the centre there. These really should all run in line. Go to the letter E, select it. To the edge. And I'll deselect it with Command D or Control D. And I have my piece of type in there. At the moment it doesn't really look like much. I mean, it looks okay, but we need to dirty it up a little bit. So what I've done is I've got on the internet and I found some old paper. Okay, I've used a large image in the search as well, and I'm actually going to choose that one there. I'll go to full size image, let it load up. And I'll download it. Save image as. And I'll save it to the desktop. Old paper, save. And it's downloading. Still downloading. Nearly there. And I'll minimise that. Okay, so back to our image. What I'll do is I'll open it up. File, open. I want to go to old paper. Open. I'll select all of it. Command A or Control A. Copy it. Command or Control C. I'll go back to my Art Deco image and I'll paste it on top. Command or Control V. Now it's a bit small, but that's okay for this image because I only want to dirty the image up. So I've got it in there. I'll rotate it around. I'll stretch it out. Whoops, too much. Might zoom out a little bit with Command minus. Drag that out. That'll do. And what I'll do is I'll change this layer mode from normal to multiply. And that will give me an old sort of retro look to it. Now it's a bit harsh, so what I can do is I can either adjust the opacity down. Okay. One other thing I can do is I can desaturate it a little bit and use levels. So I will make an adjustment on it. Image adjustments, levels, and decrease the amount of darkness in it, or I can increase the gamma here. Okay. Also the saturation, which is Command U. Image adjustments, hue saturation, or Command U for saturation. I can pull some saturation out there. Give it an old look. And there you have it. If you want to tie this into the background a bit more, what you can also do is spray on a new layer a bit of green. I'll make my brush bigger by simply hitting the brackets to the right of the letter P. I'll paint in, make sure I'm on airbrush. I'll keep the opacity low for it as well, so I've got more control, and just simply paint in something like that. And because it's on its own layer, you can adjust the opacity of that layer as well. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.